Hello there. Today I've come to talk to you about the control knob on my Bose stereo system. It's got a few quirks that I think you'll find interesting. So here is the Bose control knob, and the first thing I'll point out here is that nothing is labeled except for these two jacks here. The left, we can tell, is the headphone jack. That does look like a headphone set. And if you have a headphone set in your hand that you're looking to plug in, you can kind of contrast and compare and figure that one out, I think. This one over here, arrow pointing into a circle, so you plug something in there. Honestly, to this day, I still don't know what, and I've been using this for some time now. I haven't experimented with it, but since I've not known what to put in there, I've never really bothered. And then, of course, on top, it says Bose. So I guess if you're familiar with stereo equipment, you'll know that this has to do with the stereo. But honestly, if you don't know what Bose is, you don't know what this knob is. You don't know what it does, and you have no idea how to work it. So because I know, I'll go ahead and show you that in order to turn the volume down, I turn it counterclockwise. To turn the volume up, I will turn it clockwise. And I figured this out with trial and error. I didn't have the manual, so I suppose in the manual it's ever so clearly defined. So just to stop for a second, I want you to know here that I feel anything that is truly easy to use should not need an instruction manual. And there are certain things that are just going to have to be hard to use. But I feel that this is not one of them, and yet from the things I've showed you already, there are some confusions, and there's some future confusions that I'm about to show you as well. So next, let's talk about this little light that we see on the top of the control here. Now this light is orange, which doesn't really mean anything to me. I can tell you because I know that this means that the system has been muted. But really people are only familiar with green for on or for go, red for off, and so I'm not sure that orange has really made it to the mainstream and mute. I could be wrong, but as a regular user that doesn't really have a level of understanding for me. So there's no switch that I'm hiding from you to mute the system. In fact, you are looking at the mute switch right now. It's actually a touch sensitive button on the top, and so if I get my finger close enough, there comes the music, and there it goes away again. You can also see when I turn the music on and the sound is back on that the light changes to green, and then back to orange, green again, and orange again. So this is how we mute. That's kind of cool. I mean, wow, Bose, you guys are really awesome, but again, if I hadn't read the manual, I wouldn't know this right off the bat. I'm sure you'd figure it out, because as soon as you pick the thing up, you're turning the sound on and off, and you're trying to figure out why that's happening. You figure it out pretty fast, though. But that's really not the best way to explore a control, I think. The other thing that I really don't like about this control is when I reach out to change the volume like this, great, up, down, left, right, sometimes I'll touch it like this and I'll accidentally mute the music I'm listening to. So I'm listening to music and I'll want to really crank it up, and whoops, I muted it instead. Dang it. So that's something that I've run into a few times, more than a few times. Or the opposite, something will be I'll have just muted it, and then as I pull my hand away, I'll brush against it and unmute it, and then I gotta reach back out and mute it yet again. So what can Bose do to improve this control knob? I think it's probably fairly cheap to laser etch some indication of volume on the outer disc that I showed you, and maybe just laser etch the word mute into the middle, so it's a mute button, and the person will see that and reach for it saying, well, how do I mute? And then they'll kind of figure it out a little bit faster. There's never anything wrong with labeling, and not labeling something is usually very wrong. And I've shown you a few ways here where number one, they labeled something that was wrong because the label didn't mean anything with that second jack. And number two, they didn't label any the other things, and so I was forced to figure them out on my own. And then a third thing that happened was I was hitting the mute button on accident because the mute button is literally flush against the volume button. So cranking up the volume can turn into a muting experience, and muting and then pulling your hand away can turn into a turning the volume back on experience. Very unintentional behavior on my part, but something that Bose could have very easily avoided by just making mute an actual button with some level of, you know, affordance for pressing, and or a switch, a mute switch where I just switch it left and right or up and down, some little toggle. But they went the cool route, and it's a very cool little device, but maybe not the most usable device. So if you have any other Bose or other kinds of stereo equipment that has a control like this, or maybe they did the same kind of control but they labeled these things better, why don't you go ahead and take a video and post a video response, or take some pictures and post those, and share what you've got to share.